did you have a variety of customers in different industries? And
yeah, no, that's a good question. So, I mean, everybody's after the Fortune 500 companies, right? Because they're the biggest ones, the Apples and the HPs and the Gap stores.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Gap was one of our very first clients. They started making, products over in Asia, wanted to go into China for the cheaper labor source as well, and the quality was very good.
Mm-hmm.
And Gap said, look, come with us. We're leaving Hong Kong. We want to go into China. Help us manage our goods, our purchase orders, everything.
Right.
And help us source those products.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have offices over there, but we want you to open up offices so you can be our eyes and ears and help bring that product to the distribution centers or retail stores, what have you. So
right.
there's if anybody is doing something international, and obviously the company not only was to import, but we developed the whole export market. So clients in the US or any country that was producing and moving goods overseas,
mm-hmm.
that was our client as well. We developed both sides, of course.
Right.
So no matter the strength of the currency or what have you, the trade markets, we wanted to be involved.
Right.
So anything that you see,
mm-hmm.
There's a pretty good chance it was imported or might be exported.
Right.
And those are the clients we went after. As long as they had a need,
mm-hmm.
right? As long as we felt they had a growth potential, as long as they weren't at risk financially,
mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And as long as they wanted to have a long-term relationship, somebody they really wanted to work with side by side and grow their business with.
Mm-hmm.
If they were in it because they felt we had better pricing,
mm-hmm.
and that's the only reason they're in it, we would choose not to work with them. Because we didn't want somebody just for a short-term relationship, because there's a lot of startup costs to develop the relationship correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's just in it because we're $1 cheaper or a penny cheaper per pound on air freight, we would walk away.
Okay.
Or do our very best to explain to them why that's the wrong way to look at it.
Right.
And long-term, the savings, the cycle time reductions, all the things that can come to fruition
mm-hmm.
would be there if they would commit to us. But we never had contracts. It was always about if our service could make their life better, their business better,
mm-hmm.
then they would continue to work with us and we would develop together.
Okay.
So I would have to ask you 20, 1,000 questions, right? And kind of break it down
right.
and ask you about your clients,
mm-hmm.
what their expectations are, what you're
right.
currently getting, what your costs are, what your cycle times are.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, there's a subjective part to the business, and that part we always try to move aside and objectively look at it and say, look, tell us what you need, what your client's expectations are, how can we measure that? How can we quantifiably say, hey, Expeditors, we want you to do this for us, and we in turn can, in essence, run a scorecard and say, look, we're meeting what you asked. You said, I want these goods to move in this time frame at this cost on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. So our job was to take the guesswork out of it.
Okay.
And make that supply chain more linear. And people are always looking for more visibility, obviously, right?
Right.
I mean, any visibility is the number one goal. After that, they were trying to reduce their cycle times,
mm-hmm.
reduce their inventory costs, and reduce their inventory, period.
Right.
Because of the cost of carrying inventory, and reduce any type of excess inventory that
Okay.
you just didn't need. Because in the old days, it was just a big, movement of goods without really any suggestion of who the sales, where the sales are going, or what final point. When we started using just fax, and faxes back and forth as a communication on the phone,
mm-hmm.
and using a telex machine, which you probably know what that is, where we're sending telexes back and forth, to the fact that we're allowing clients to EDI and give us all their orders electronically, and there's going for that paperless system, which is a challenge to get to even 35 years later, right?
Right.
But the visibility of that, the data
mm-hmm.
exchange, the ability to have clients run all their costs using all the information we have coming from point A to point B.
Right.
So without the technology, we wouldn't have had the ability to inform our clients. They wouldn't have been able to reduce their costs, up until now. Timing, I mean, if it's you're up for 24 hours, how do you help that client get through that strike, that a volcano that disrupted certain flight patterns? You're right. It could be a tsunami in Japan that's created from a meltdown, or but how do you react? Are you there for the client? Are you there past 5? Are you there at midnight? Are your offices? Can they put together a quote unquote SWAT team? A team to step up, with your account management team and help this client get through this. Even this summer, I'm sure you guys read about how Hanjin steamship line went bankrupt, right?
Right.
So, 4 or 5 months prior to Hanjin going bankrupt, everybody had indications that there's some serious financial problems there. We knew what was going off the markets. We knew that the rates were crashing. We knew they were losing money on every container they moved.
Right.
So clearly, we did the right thing and stepped away from them and didn't put any cargo on that. But ironically, 4 or 5 months later, I'm reading the Wall Street Journal front page news every day about how there's millions of dollars of product stuck, at the port openings. So we avoid that by being more conservative. The flip side is, how do you then go to those clients who have their product stuck and find the air capacity, for example, to fly that product in? Because no matter what, the client has to get their phones, if it's Apple or whatever, to the release date that they've promised. You don't want to drive your client crazy, right? But you want to be as linked to them as possible. It could be through EDI, so every few minutes they'd be getting a transmission from us, notifying them of some event that's taking place on the supply chain of their shipment, for example. We made it a point, if it was a key client, meaning a large client, to have a formal sit-down review every month with them to produce the reports and the information and the scorecard, once again, to show that this is how we quantify, this is how we measure everything we've done for you. Are we meeting your expectation? Is this what you asked us to do, and are we meeting it or exceeding it, we hope? So we always felt that the best approach was not wait for them to call us, but to go to them with the information they said, this is what we want from you as far as performance and key indicators, right?
Right.
We would take those measurements and give them to them and say, help us, how can we improve? If you have inconsistent service, if your rates fluctuate on you, if you can't manage the client's vendors the way they want to, you can literally shut down that company or bankrupt that company by having the people, when they show up in the stores, to go next door, right? Because they can't find what they want. So it's of essence. The key is, though, there are a lot of people that say they can do the job, but there's only very few, I think, in this industry, because it's pretty fragmented, that can kind of take the roof off, look inside, see what the client truly needs, and then perform that way. But the real question is performing on day to day, and then where are you taking the client down the road with changes in technology and the evolution of the industry? Are you, visionary as well as tactical?